Hello and welcome to a new episode of Adobe Creative Cloud TV. My name is Terry White and I'm here to give you your first look at the brand new Adobe Lightroom CC, which of course is part of the Creative Cloud photography plan, as well as my top 6 favorite features in this new release. So let's dive in with feature number 1, which I think most of you will be excited about. And that is the ability to work with HDR right inside Lightroom. So here I've got 3 images. I've got a kind of a normal exposure, a light or overblown exposure, and a dark exposure. And of course, the ability to shoot bracketed like this with your camera and then combine those images into a single HDR or high dynamic range image is often something that was done inside Photoshop or plugins or other utilities. Now I can just simply right click on those 3 photos, and instead of editing in another program, I can now just simply say photo merge to HDR right here inside of Lightroom CC. Now, of course, it's creating the HDR preview. And with the preview, I have the ability to auto align, auto tone. If there's any deghosting, I can have it do that based on one frame in the image. And if there's any movement in the image or I want to see what the deghost did, I can even show it in the overlay. So for example, in this particular shot, there is a chance that we might want to do some deghosting because this was shot on a bridge where cars were, of course, going underneath the bridge. So it's pretty much impossible to get the car in the same exact, a moving car in the same exact spot in all 3 frames. So there will be some movement. And if I show the overlay, it'll kind of show me the little red marks there where the cars were moving or something wasn't the same in all 3 frames. So if that's significant in my photo or important in my photo, then I can let Lightroom go ahead and do the deghosting, or for the sake of time, I'm just going to let it not do it since I'm okay with the frame the way it looks. The cars are so far off in the distance, it won't matter. So let's go ahead and merge. And that merge will actually happen in the background here inside Photoshop, or I keep wanting to say Photoshop, inside Lightroom. It's actually merging right here in Lightroom, not having to go out to Photoshop. And more importantly, it's doing that process in the background. So I don't have to wait for that bar to finish. I can move on to the next one. I can even queue up my next HDR and let that one process. Because as Lightroom has been for many years, it's 64-bit and the ability to have multiple processes running at the same time. So here is my new raw file that it created, my new HDR DNG, which I can of course double click on. I can go into the develop module. I can work on this image in the develop module. I can do any of the adjustments that I would normally do, and more importantly, I can do them non-destructively right here in the develop module. So that's the new HDR capability built right in, and that's my first favorite new feature. My second favorite new feature is kind of related, and that's the ability to have Lightroom create a panoramic image. So as you can see, I shot this castle in London, and the castle's multiple frames. I'm just going to go ahead and select all the frames. I've already done one, so we don't have to wait for it, but I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, right click, and photo merge to panorama. And if we photo merge to panorama, it will bring up the same kind of dialog box where it first shows you the preview, shows you what it's going to look like. Over here, you can have it auto select what it thinks would be best between spherical, cylindrical, and perspective. Depending on how you shot your multiple frames, one might look better than the other. So for example, in spherical, I can tell that it's not going to look as good. It's going to look more rounded. And that's not what I want. I'd rather it be perspective. So instead of letting it auto detect, I know what I want. I'll do perspective. Also, you have the ability to have it crop or not. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, cropping's great. And this is what I would do in Lightroom. But if I were going to work on this in Photoshop, then I might leave it uncropped and let Photoshop's magic content-aware fill in those blank areas. But that's up to you. We'll leave it cropped and we'll let it go ahead and merge. And again, that merging's happening in the background. And it will make another one right alongside this one. And again, since it is happening in the background, we don't have to wait for it, but just to show you what it looks like, this is what the finished panel looks like. And again, I can go into the develop module and work on it or export it or work on something else because that progress bar is a background process. Okay, so now while we're waiting for that or not, I can go on to feature number 3, which actually does have to do with performance. So if I go up to my preferences here in Lightroom, you'll notice that there's a brand new performance tab that is based on your computer's GPU or graphics processing unit. The graphics processor is for the develop module. We take advantage of it there mostly. So for example, all of the processes that you do in a develop module that might have taken a few moments, or sliders might not have been as smooth, those have been sped up considerably if your system has a graphics card with a GPU processor on it that we can take advantage of. If not, we'll still do the task the way we always did on a CPU, but if you have a GPU that we can take advantage of, it will speed things up tremendously. In some cases, thousands of percents especially on like even older machines. I think one of the test cases was a 4-year-old MacBook Pro and how much faster it sped things up on that older piece of hardware. So it's not just for the newest, greatest, and latest and greatest. It's also for any computer that has a graphics card that we can take advantage of. We can speed up processes in the develop module on that computer. And along the same lines, although it's not, it's part of number 3, but not really number 3, and that is just on file handling in your catalog settings, the standard preview size. This used to be something that was a fixed size. You would choose, I believe the highest you can go is 1440 pixels. In the past, you had to set a size, and that would be your standard preview size. Now, you notice I have it set to auto, and you can change yours to auto as well. And what that will do is it will build a preview size based on the display that you're running Lightroom on. So for example, if you're running it on a normal display, then the 1440 or 2880 might be enough. But if you're running it on a high DPI display or 4K display or 5K iMac Retina, then you might want it to be on auto. So it builds a better preview based on the display that you're showing it on. So again, all of the performance enhancements would make up my number 3 favorite feature. And as you can see, the panel did finish in the background, which is great that I don't have to wait for that to happen. It will just do its thing while I continue to work. All right, so number 3 was performance. What's number 4? Well, number 4, I'm going to import a new set of images to work on so that you can see really what number 4 is all about. So let's go into my Lightroom folder, and I've got a folder here called Adobe Play. I'm just going to go ahead and place that inside or drag it right on top of Lightroom so it can do an import. Now, even though this next thing is my number 4, I'm going to show you something that's in between that would be like a 3.5, and that is there's a new add to collection when you do an import into Lightroom. So you can just save a step by adding the images that you're about to import into an existing collection or a new collection. So I'll call this Adobe Play. And I can even have that new collection sync with Lightroom Mobile right off the bat. So I can go ahead and say create, and it will create the new collection for me and put it in the collection set that I want it to be in, do my import, build my smart previews, and if I go down to my demo collection set, there's my new Adobe Play. And after it finishes building the previews, which the last step will be to drop those in this empty collection that it's already created. So it's building previews, and those will ultimately appear inside my Adobe Play folder. But again, this is a background process, so I don't have to wait for that. Let's jump to my number 4 feature. And that is something that we've kind of played around with in other Adobe applications, but now it's finally made its way into Lightroom, and that is called face detection. So face detection is actually a new view inside of Lightroom. So if I go to my view menu, I have the ability now to view people. So we had grid, loop, compare, and survey, and now letter O, keyboard shortcut, will take you into the people view. And once I go into the people view, it will start going through the photos in that folder or in that collection and looking for faces. Once it finds faces, I can identify who those people are. So for example, I can say that this is Mary. And once I give Mary a name and lock it in, There we go. It will add Mary to the named people and then prompt me for my next one. If I give it a few seconds, it's again building that smart preview in the background, but if we waited a few seconds, it might start identifying the rest of these as the same person. And then it will just prompt you and say, hey, is this Mary also? And then you would just check, there will be a check mark on the right-hand side. You can say, yes, it is. And it will add those images to the Mary folder, or I'm sorry, the Mary grouping. Now, what it's doing here is it's adding Mary, or whatever you type in as the name, as a people keyword. So we've had keywords in Lightroom in the past, but now you have a different kind of keyword. If we go to our keyword list, you have all, which is everything, and now you have a people category as well. So we've identified one person as Mary, and I can go in and I can say that I want all the Mary photos to be, all the Mary photos to be shown or selected. So let's jump to that new collection that just got created. And as I said, it's already starting to look now and say, hey, there are other people. And hey, are these Mary? Now, when it says these, I know that there is a stack here of more than one. So I can click the stack to verify, yep, they're all three Mary. And I can say, yes, those are Mary. And if I want to look at some more, so for example, stack 3 images of Jesse, yep, those are all Jesse. I can go ahead and say, yes, those are Jesse. And it will add Jesse in. And it's continuing to go through the photos and continuing to look. Now, I notice some look a little strange, like that doesn't look like any of the band members here. If I double click to get to the actual photo, I can see that the face detection is actually very good. It started detecting faces on a book that was on the table. So if I don't want those faces, because they aren't really people I know, I can delete the face regions from any photo that I don't want and have it say, no, don't worry about those. Those aren't, those aren't real people or those aren't people I care about. And for example, what's going on here? Why is this guy out of focus? Why is this guy out of focus? Because they weren't necessarily the main focus of the photo. It found their faces, but it didn't necessarily distinguish, hey, well, maybe this is the only guy you care about. Nope, this is a photo of 5 people. I'm going to show you all 5. You can name them if you want, or you can delete the face regions. Now, if there wasn't a case where it did not get a face, let's see if I can find one here where it did not detect a face, or it hasn't detected these yet. I think it's still working on those. Okay, yeah, that one it did. Trying to find one where it found some but not all. And I may not have an example of that, but oh, okay, here's one. Here's one where it maybe hasn't found the faces yet, or it won't find the faces because it doesn't really do good on profiles. So when you have someone that's like half a face in this case, because we can't see the rest, it may not detect. So you can go in and you can create your own face regions with the region, or the face region tool, I believe it's called. Draw face region tool. And you can say, these are people, and you can name who they are, and they will be added to the categories that you previously had. So that is face recognition in the new Lightroom CC. So with that said, and again, if I go back to faces, it will continue to find faces. Now, for example, it's again starting to find more pictures with people, and it's asking me, are these people the people that I originally identified? Yes, they are. But let's say it did not detect one. So I can, of course, this is Mary, and these are both Mary. I can go ahead and type them in, or one of my favorite ways of doing it, just simply dragging them onto an existing person I've identified, and it will add them to that person. So I can just, if I had 6 shots that it didn't necessarily recognize as the right person, I can just select all 6, drag them up, and be done with it. So that is my number 4 favorite feature, face recognition. What's number 5? Let me go to one of my existing portfolios here, my landscapes portfolio, for example. And no, we don't want to look for people there, so let's go back to the grid view. And what I'd love to do is a slideshow of this. And of course, slideshows aren't new in Lightroom. They've been there for a long time. But what is new is a lot of things under music and playback. So music we had in the last version, but now you have the ability to add more than one song. You can add multiple tracks. So I could say I want, all of these, some of these, one of these, and it will continue to add them in to the list. So if you have a longer slideshow where one song doesn't cut it, you can add multiple songs. And of course, if you don't want a song, you can go ahead and remove it. But that's not the big one. The big one for me here, which makes it my number 5, and that is the ability now to sync the slides to the music. I don't mean just sync it to the length. I mean to the beat of the music. And if you're playing songs, or you're playing a slideshow that has video in it and songs, you can have a slider here which the precedence of the audio. In other words, do I care about the people talking in the video in my slideshow, or do I care more about the music? And the big one also for me here is the new pan and zoom capability. So for example, if I were to preview this, it will build the slides, and I can start to hear the music, and you can see that my slides are pan and zoom to the beat of the music. We'll stop the preview, hit the escape key. So I also just want to point out a couple things here. I also have noticed that there's a new quality setting here. So I can say, don't waste time building regular previews. I'm just previewing this to make sure the slideshow looks okay. Go to draft. Or, yeah, I'm ready to show it in front of 500 people. Give me high quality. So you can base that based on, of course, on the display and the images that you have. So my 5th favorite feature is, of course, the new advanced slideshow features. What's number 6? All right, for number 6, we're going to talk a little bit more about Lightroom Mobile. So let me go to lightroom.adobe.com and go ahead and sign in with my Adobe ID. We'll see the collections, of course, that I've synced with Lightroom Mobile, including the one that I just did, the new Adobe Play collection. And of course, those are also going to appear on my iPad, my iPhone. Also, as of today, of course, Android phone was already there, but now Android tablets are supported. So this is great to be able to do this all directly in Lightroom Mobile. But you'll notice something new. Let me go back in case you didn't notice it. There's plus signs on each collection, and there's a new Create Collection right here in the web view. So now you no longer have to wait till you get back to your computer or back to a device to add new photos. If you happen to be on a computer, for whatever reason, it doesn't have Lightroom, and you want to add some images from that computer back to your Lightroom catalog, you can just either create a new collection or add them to an existing collection, and then you just hit the plus sign. It will bring up your, hey, locate, show me where those images are. So for example, let's add one to Adobe Play. So I'll go to my demo files here. I've got photos. I'll go to my fashion shots, and I'll add this one, just whatever the first one was. So now it's uploading that photo, and that photo's been uploaded, and there it is. So now that new file is in my Adobe Play collection, and of course that collection is synced to Lightroom on my desktop as well. So if I head back to Lightroom on the desktop and I go to my Adobe Play collection, there's the new photo that I just added from Lightroom on the web, which has now been synced back down to my desktop in its full resolution, whatever it was, in that same collection. So there you have it. My top 6 favorite new features in Lightroom CC. There's lots of little enhancements all the way throughout the application, in the web module and more in the library module, just all kinds of cool things to do. But those are my 6 favorites. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one.